Thanks to my former father-in-law, I was able to get custody. I'm 33 years old, an office worker, with a college degree, making $85,000 a year. My wife is 31, works part-time, has a high school diploma, and earns $15,000 a year. We have one son. We met through a mutual friend. I fell in love with her smile. During our marriage, my income was sufficient for our living expenses, so we used her income for vacations and social obligations, but I let her spend the rest as she pleased. She mainly did the cooking, while I did most of the cleaning and laundry. There was no domestic violence or controlling behavior between us. Last year, we were finally blessed with a child. After that, our nightlife suddenly stopped. At first, I thought it was hormone-related. 2 months ago, my wife said,
"I'm going to the park with our son and you should stay home and take care of some chores."
About an hour later, a friend, Eddie, sent me a photo asking, "Tomas, is this your car?" I replied that my wife had taken it to go to the park. Then Eddie sent another photo, saying, "I'm at a park in a neighboring state about an hour away from your home with my wife. Look at this." Although the faces weren't clear, the clothing, bag, and stroller in the photo were unmistakably familiar. A man was holding hands with them, looking like a family. I rushed to the park on my motorcycle. Eddie and his wife, who my wife doesn't know, were waiting in the parking lot and had kept an eye on her for me. I'm deeply grateful to them for interrupting the date. Eddie told me, "I know it's hard, but don't get involved directly." And his wife asked,
"Is there anything else we can do?"
Recently, my wife had been showing smiles to this man that she never showed me. Eddie's wife recorded their conversation with a voice recorder while sitting nearby on a bench. Through the phone, I heard everything. My wife, looking into the stroller at our son, said,
"If only this child were yours, but nothing can't be changed."
And the man replied, "Try to get along with your husband, we won't be able to see each other if you get caught." Unfortunately, they were already caught. Eddie suggested, "Tomas, leave the rest to me and go back home. Now's your chance to look for evidence there." I felt like I was going insane. After throwing up and crying into the toilet, I searched the house. I found unfamiliar lingerie in bold colors, new clothes, bags, receipts, and a medicated toothpaste for removing tobacco stains in the bathroom. Even though neither of us smoke. Hidden in a drawer was an SD card with photos of her and her lover, and pictures of her in lingerie. I also found a phone with messages between her and the lover. Evidence of her transferring $5,000 to him. I took photos of everything and saved the data on my computer. I set the man's phone to forward messages to me. It seems they've been having an affair for just over 6 months. Eddie then messaged, "They're leaving the parking lot in separate cars. The man's car license plate is 1234. Before my wife returned, I texted her saying, "I'm going out with Eddie." After meeting up with Eddie and his wife, I thanked them and gathered the data. We had a rough night drinking. I got home late. My wife and son were already asleep. I thought about getting a knife, but stopped myself when I heard my son's breathing. The next day, I left work early and went to a private investigator. Gathering evidence would cost about $3,000 for a month. Is it expensive because it's a rural area? Anyway, the investigator found out that the lover is 33 years old, a temporary driver. He smokes, lives in public housing, and takes care of his unemployed mother and mentally unstable sister. He's a high school classmate of my wife, had a motorcycle accident back in the day which left him unable to engage in sexual activities. They ran into each other again when he was making a delivery to my wife's part-time job, and they started meeting up in a hotel twice a month for a few hours before picking up my son from daycare, plus 2 dates with my son and 1 meal out, it seems. I got all kinds of evidence, photos, videos, recordings. I was referred to a lawyer by a private investigator. The lawyer said confidently with a calm strength, "You can win this." I fell for my wife's smile, expressed my feelings daily, and trusted her completely. Our child is still toddling and just starting to talk, absolutely adorable. He is undoubtedly mine. But if we divorce, custody will likely go to her. It's infuriating. I don't care about the money or my wife, I just wanted my child. I sent certified mail to her parents' home, my in-laws, and the lover's home. I arranged for everyone to meet at my parents' home on a day they usually meet. I told to my wife 2 days beforehand, "There's something important at my parents' place the day after tomorrow. Take a day off from your part-time job and come with me." To which she replied,
Why? Can't you go by yourself? I'm busy.
Of course, she's busy, it's their meeting day. After too much hassle, I called the in-laws to ensure she would come on the day. I'm not sure if the in-laws received the certified mail, but they screamed something and hung up quickly. I went outside. My in-laws and wife kept calling, but I ignored them. When I got back, no one was there. It made me cry to think that I would have to get used to this life if I got divorced. It seems my wife rushed out, leaving behind everything but her phone. I had already explained the situation to my parents, and they understood everything. On the day of the meeting, my parents were silent with anger, my in-laws were apologizing sincerely, and behind them, my wife had a swollen face, possibly hit by her father, holding our child and looking down. Hearing the story from my wife, it turns out her childhood friend, the lover, came for a delivery at her job, and after catching up, feelings developed, and he aggressively pursued her, and it was just once, they said. The affair started about 8 months ago, after our child was born. My wife said in front of everyone,
I was out of my mind. I love you. Our child is a testament to our love.
My mother-in-law begged,
Tomas, can't you try to make it work, for the sake of the child?
I was so annoyed, I showed them a photo of my wife smiling happily in a park and asked, "When have you ever smiled like this for me?" She couldn't answer. Then, I asked the question I wanted to know most. "Did you have the child for him? Because he can't have kids." My wife insisted.
That's absolutely not true. I hadn't met him when I got pregnant. Please believe me.
And buried her face on the table. It seemed like she wasn't lying. When our child started crying, my mother-in-law and I stepped outside. Then the lover arrived with his mother. As soon as they arrived, his mother apologized sincerely. The lover, sullenly, said without emotion, "I had an affair with your wife. I'm sorry." I wanted to lash out, but my father-in-law and then my father punched him first. He flew across the room. The lawyer present recounted the situation, and he said, "That's right. I slept with her. But we never went all the way because of my condition. Can I go now? I have work." I seriously wondered what my wife saw in him. When I asked her what was wrong with me, she looked down and said,
There was nothing wrong. You worked hard, helped with the child and the household chores, and told me you loved me every day. I didn't deserve you. It started with nothing, but he was so insistent. I'm sorry.
The lawyer then stated my demands. $30,000 in damages and a $5,000 return from the lover, and from my wife, a divorce with a $5,000 settlement and no division of assets. Also, I wanted custody, but if my wife would take it, I wanted her to let me see the kids freely, and I'd pay child support at the standard rate. Then, the lover said, "I don't know anything about that. It's not my problem she slept with me. I don't have any money to pay. I don't need a woman with kids." And just left it at that. My wife managed to say,
"But you said you liked kids, that you'd take responsibility."
but the lover dismissed her with, "That's what you thought, not my problem," and shrugged it off. Disgusted with the lover's selfishness, I said, "Prepare yourself for a lawsuit." And he fell silent. My wife, in tears, begged me,
"I love you, for the sake of our child, please give us another chance, just one more time."
I was so appalled by my wife. "You think the kid is to be pitied? You did this. What do you think our son would feel, growing up and finding out his mother opened her legs for a man other than his father?" I was so angry, I couldn't find the right words in the end. Things got heated, so my father said, "Let's end it here." And that day ended with a dissolution. My wife, begging for my forgiveness, was taken away by my in-laws along with our child. I went back home but no one was there. Covered my face with our child's clothes and cried. In the end, we didn't go to court, but the lover agreed to pay $25,000 in installments over 5 years, though I'm not really counting on it. $5,000 was returned to my wife. We divorced without alimony, no division of assets, and I got custody. That was enough for me. I allowed visits with the child up to 4 times a month, supervised by relatives. My ex-father-in-law, with whom I got along even better than my own father, thankfully said, "I can't let a woman who betrays her duties as a wife and mother, and sleeps with another man, raise my precious grandchild," and went against the wishes of my former mother-in-law and ex-wife. My ex-wife was disowned. My ex-father-in-law apologized deeply, saying, "I'm very sorry. I once hit my ex-wife and we separated. It was very hard when her sister, my former mother-in-law, was young and adorable. I know it's tougher for you, but I understand your feelings. It's colder out there for a divorced woman with a child. Please forgive her with this. I'm always here to help. Please take good care of our grandchild." My ex-wife is living with relatives of her mother in 2 states away. She has completely cut ties with the lover. I received a message from my ex-mother-in-law saying,
"She's trying hard to start over, please come see her again."
My ex-wife has visited the child twice. Apparently, she's still able to produce breast milk, and it's painful because her breasts are engorged. She left some frozen breast milk packs. At the time of leaving, both mother and child were crying. I was oddly impressed that she still had some maternal instincts. I've been approached with matchmaking proposals by eager relatives, but I'm not interested right now. Hearing about the matchmaking, my ex-wife panicked and sent me messages frequently, saying,
"I'm working hard to start over. Please look at the new me. I want to live together as 3. I've realized how important you are. I want to sleep in your arms again. I've never welcomed anyone else in my heart. Please come back."
I was furious and called my ex-wife. "Stop it. I'm sick of hearing what you want and what you'd like me to do for you. I'll let you hear the son's voice." And I put the phone to my son's mouth, and he called out in his cute voice,
"Mama."
I took the phone back and said, "Did you hear that? What can you do for this child? Trying to contain my anger. My ex-wife was sobbing. Raising a child has its challenges, but with help from those around me, I'm managing somehow. Though the night cries are tough, feeling my child's warmth as we sleep together is bliss. When I was feeding my child baby food, I got so angry with those messages that I couldn't sleep at night, but now I've calmed down. Years later. Due to incompatible daycare hours, my child is now being looked after at my parents' place during the day. Despite the hard routine of waking up at 5 a.m. every morning for drop-offs and pickups, I've recklessly started dating a woman, recommended by my friend Eddie, and am mostly worried about finding time for dates. So, there's no chance of getting back with my ex-wife. The lover lost his job at a transport company and is now working in a warehouse, sorting and packing. His emotionally unstable sister remains the same. His mother had a brain aneurysm rupture and sadly passed away after being unconscious for more than 2 weeks. The reason I know about all this is because he contacted me saying, "My mom collapsed, I don't have any money. Can we delay the alimony payments?" I told him, "Go through a lawyer. Figure it out yourself." My ex-wife is still staying with her former mother-in-law's relatives but hasn't come to see the child. There's no direct contact. Occasionally, I get calls from my ex-mother-in-law saying,
"She's been proposed for remarriage, so she might get married somewhere soon. If you're thinking about getting back together, now's the time."
To which I responded, "Is that so? Being a farmer's wife might toughen her up. Please tell her I wish her happiness. I'm seeing someone now. No need for further contact." Then, I was troubled. The night I spoke with my ex-mother-in-law, after returning home with my child past 9 p.m., my ex-wife was sitting at the front door. She said,
"I heard you had a girlfriend, so I came."
It was the first time I'd seen my ex-wife since the showdown. She had lost some weight and looked pale from the cold. She started crying upon seeing the child, so I let her hold him.
"I know it's selfish to ask, but please break up with your girlfriend. Let me stay here. I'm the only mother this child has. I'll be a good mom this time. I'm really sorry. I'll do better, but I'm such an idiot."
She sobbed uncontrollably. Normally, one might be swayed by the atmosphere and tears, but my feelings had long since cooled off. "I can't trust you. I'll contact your former in-laws," I said, and my ex-wife clung to any suggestion asking,
"What should I do?"
I made it clear. "I don't think my feelings will come back for you." Eventually, my ex-wife was picked up by my ex-father-in-law. This is becoming a hassle. I wanted to settle things quickly and didn't ask my ex-wife for child support considering her low income, but I wonder if that was a mistake. I cashed out what I could, and there was no division of assets, just a small amount of savings in my ex-wife's name that was released. It would have been interesting to make her marry the lover, but the strong opposition from my ex-in-laws made it impossible to proceed forcefully, and pushing it might have meant losing custody of my child. At that time, I was just glad she disappeared from my sight. Moreover, violence is out of the question. I have my own burdens to bear. Never did I expect my ex-wife to show up at my home again. I protested to my ex-in-laws. "I'll take legal action. But I'm not sure of the effect." This whole situation has left me feeling terrible. Moreover, after discussing this incident, my girlfriend broke up with me. It's somewhat damaging. Once again, getting back together with my ex-wife or living with her is out of the question. I've been discussing various things with my friend Eddie and his wife, but we're at an impasse, so tonight, I'll leave the child at my parents' place and go out for a drink with them for a change of pace. Not long after, a matchmaking proposal came through my family, so I took my child and went out. I also decided to gather some information myself by visiting close friends. From conversations with my ex-in-laws and observing the situation, it's clear that my ex-wife regrets the divorce. During this time, there was a development at my family's home.
This one looks promising. The person introducing us is trustworthy, so don't worry.
And things progressed smoothly to the point of nearly getting engaged. The other person is my second cousin. Our families have been close neighbors for years, and we visited each other frequently. The father of the other person started the conversation with,
"My daughter isn't the most graceful, but, with your second son."
And my father responded,
"If she's okay with our family, please take him."
She is Catherine, 27 years old, a community college graduate, currently unemployed. She's a bit strong-willed, but her character is good. No issues with her appearance. Catherine has been caring for her grandmother at home since her mother passed away, which delayed her marriage prospects. I also talked with her grandmother whenever she wanted someone to talk to. However, her grandmother passed away this year, leaving her and her father alone. Catherine said,
I started looking for a marriage partner, but got rejected everywhere. It was so bad, I had to laugh.
In my opinion, it wasn't about her, but the conditions she set.
Can't leave my father alone, so adoption or living together is a must. No affairs.
She insisted. Her father intended to marry her off, but Catherine insisted on living together. When I said,
"Without your dad, you'd get settled quickly,"
Catherine replied nonchalantly,
Don't worry about that. So, do you think you can marry me?
I honestly said,
"You're too close for me to see it that way. But I think it's possible."
Since my brother will inherit our family home, it wouldn't be a problem for me and my child to become adopted. Catherine laughed.
Then, it's settled. Engagement confirmed. I'll take good care of your son.
I was taken aback by the swift development, but seeing Catherine curling my son's curly hair around her finger and laughing, I lost the will to continue as a single father. Though not yet married, Catherine's father said,
"Since you're going to be adopted anyway, come stay with us."
So we took him up on his offer and moved into Catherine's home, starting a life that felt like living in a boarding house with meals and childcare provided. Is this considered premarital cohabitation? For me, it's like staying at a relative's place where nothing changes for my child. My own home, now unnecessary, will be sold. In this situation, my ex-wife will likely give up on reconciliation. As things progressed, partly due to work relations, I ended up marrying into Catherine's family and officially registered our marriage. Now, we're all living happily together. My child has become more active, and it's hard to take my eyes off him. Eddie and his wife also had a child, and they come to visit sometimes. When Catherine holds Eddie's baby, our son gets jealous and clings to her, saying,
"Mama, no."
He doesn't remember his birth mother, so I'd prefer not to tell him about his origins, but eventually, he'll find out, I guess. My ex-wife rejected the proposal to marry into a farming family and seems to have moved back to her parents' place from her relative's place, but she's always staying inside her home and not even contacting her child. One day, while our family of 3 was at the shopping center, we ran into my former mother-in-law by chance. She saw our son wearing used clothes we got from an acquaintance and said,
Oh my. I feel sorry for the grandchild, not being your own blood, you must not care, especially with your family going through hard times.
To which my current wife cheerfully replied,
He's a handful, so it's tough even for the two of us. My husband doesn't earn much. And what about your grandson's plans?
My current wife is full of energy and doesn't get discouraged easily, which is a bit reassuring. My ex-wife and mother-in-law seem to mock my family, but my ex-father-in-law says, "Honestly, I want to cut ties with those people. I've made mistakes in my life. It's disgusting, but I have to think about my retirement." During our drinking sessions, I say things like, "You're not even 60 yet, still strong. Are you going to give your pension, retirement savings, and a place to a woman like that?" At the beginning of the divorce, I still had feelings for my ex-wife and remembered the good times, thinking we could talk and possibly reconcile if there were feelings left since I had my faults too. However, my ex-wife remained the same. My disillusionment grew as I was monitored, received silent calls, and unwanted emails, which only increased my aversion. Yet, sometimes I do recall the happy memories and feel lonely, that's true. But I believe this was the best decision for our child. During the day, my parents look after him, and fortunately, his emotional state is stable, he eats well, sleeps well, and plays well. He's still young and it's unclear how much he understands adult conversations, but both my family and I make sure not to speak bad or even talk about his mother at all.